Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Claudia Monticelli, the host of this podcast, Let's Talk Soul. Over the years, after having interviewed so many people on so many different topics, I realized that what interested my audience wasn't really the individual topics per se, but was how it impacted them, how it touched their soul. So I'll invite you all to lay back, put your feet up, and if you like what you hear, leave a review, 5-star review. I'd appreciate that. So just enjoy your listening. Today I'm with Sara Walka. Say hello to our audience, Sara.
Hello, everybody. It's great to be here.
Great. Sara is talking to us from Connecticut. And let me introduce you to her. She's a woman after my own heart, really. She is the founder of the Sisters Enchanted. Since 2000, and we'll have her explain that, since 2016, she has helped thousands of women lean into their intuition, conjure joy, and make everyday magic. And right there, we have loaded words, and a lot of people may have, shy away from magic. Sara believes that a little bit of enchantment, wonder, and mysticism goes a long way in creating a life that feels fun, purposeful, and spacious. Now, Sara, what's a nice girl like you becoming a witch for? Woo!
Right? My grandmother would like to know that also.
Okay.
She'd like the answer to that question.
Was she a witch?
No, my family's very Christian.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh, well then, double the interest in the question.
Yeah.
Where did that come from? Out of the blue?
I can remember all the way back to childhood just being very interested in everything at the time,
When was this? You blanked out for a second.
Oh,
When was this? All the way back to?
All the way back to childhood, just realizing I had interests that were different than other people maybe in my life. And really even just, I was a little different than other people. And I can't say for sure the moment that I really was like, I'm a witch. I'm claiming this word witch.
Or your nails starting to grow extra long.
Yeah.
Your ears.
Yeah. I think that I loved Halloween. I loved pop culture witches. And I didn't know anything about it, this idea other than that, just based on where I lived, how I grew up. And
so that was the early 20s, right? So when did it come into full bloom?
Well, actually, I bought my first tarot deck when I was in high school as a teenager. And then I was...
But we're not yet a witch.
We're not quite
one tarot deck does not make a witch.
No, so I bought a tarot deck. And then from there, I was in a bookstore, a discount bookstore, and I found all these Wicca books. And that became the thing that I started spending my lunch money on instead and my babysitting money.
Okay, can you give us a general description of Wicca? What the definition of Wicca? A lot of people who are listening may not know what that is.
Yeah, so Wicca is I would say, I don't know a formal definition of it. I would say it's a systematized form of witchcraft, which is more close to a religion than perhaps most would consider paganism. Wicca has more, this is sort of the way to do things. It's more structured in terms of belief system, where there's also, and I'm not Wiccan. This is just where my story starts, but it is more structured, more linear in terms of common beliefs. And then we have the umbrella of paganism, which is much wider, has a lot under it. So Wicca is, if I were to say a kind of area of witchcraft that's more like religion in that it has structure, Wicca would be that and how I view it.
Well, let's just clarify. I mean, not all witches are Wiccan.
Right.
Witches have nothing to do with Wicca
Or
around the
religion.
world.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
for sure. Which is what, as I grew, into
Hmm.
adulthood, that's really where I found myself. I realized, oh wait, there is this whole world out here, and this stack of books I bought from this one bookstore is not the be all end all.
Oh, they must have been happy every time they
Yeah,
saw you. Oh, she's back.
yeah,
Let's
yeah.
raise the prices.
Right. And then I don't know, it's sort of just morphed into who I am over time. When I was in college, I have an English degree, but I minored in sociology, focusing on women's studies, mostly, and then went on to become a teacher. And
Mhm.
and through all of this, I think just learning about women and myself as a woman, and taking this spirituality that I had developed over time, came to this being of a witch, and the word witch for me.
Okay, so let's say that you are painting a picture of witches as feminine.
Not for me, right? Yeah, you're right. I am
Right.
painting that picture totally. There are
Hmm.
plenty of male witches. I tend to circle with women, and on the internet find myself with
Hmm.
women. But it did have that idea for me, as historically women who were condemned for being witches, uh,
Uh-huh.
you know
Burned at the
typically,
stake.
right, were typically women. There were of course men also,
Yeah.
and
Well, the
but
definition, if you open Webster's, it'll say warlock for a male witch, but it's never, it sounds like something out of the Middle Ages,
right, no
really.
one ever says warlocks burned at the stake. It's always the witches burned at the stake.
Right.
And I think too, living where I live in Connecticut, the first person who was tried and killed for witchcraft in the US was in Connecticut. And
Hmm.
then, the Salem witch trials, which really had nothing to do with witchcraft whatsoever, as we
Right.
know historically. But living so close to that as I do, we learned about
Yeah.
it, over and over again in school, because it was like
Yeah.
considered local history for us.
Sure.
So I think that definitely impacted my view of the female aspect too. Uh,
Uh-huh.
and
Now, you mentioned to me the Sisters Enchanted, and your website, I believe, is, or your YouTube channel is the Sisters Enchanted, and your website too, the Sisters Enchanted, and the Instagram, the underscore sister underscore enchanted. Now, that is a cult, an association, a group, a what is it?
right, yeah, we teach online courses is what we do. What we are
Hmm.
is a community of women. We're
Hmm.
99% women, uh all around the world, who participate in the different things that we have to offer. And we've done gathered in person, done live events.
Give me an
We're mostly
example. Give me an
virtual.
example. One of the most recent things you've done.
Yeah, well, we teach online all the time, so that's always
Right.
ongoing. We always
Okay.
have courses, and then recently, the beginning of just a month ago, a small group of us met up in Salem, Massachusetts. All
Uh
came
huh.
together for an event there and spent the day together. And it was great to see people for the first time in person
Yeah.
after a few years.
Yeah.
But what we
Yeah.
do online is we learn together. We have a community of teachers and contributors and healers, and we have this cool program where we meet together at the new moon, the first quarter moon, the full moon, and the third quarter moon, and work
Hmm.
on, it's a combination of this witchcraft and all of the spiritual tools we all love, but also how are we using that in our daily life, and
Okay.
actually growing.
Let's say one thing that is high on the agenda of groups like this are intentions.
Yeah.
And when you teach, I imagine that that is a key word in your courses, wouldn't it be?
Oh my goodness, it is. It's
Intentions.
the thing I probably
Okay.
talk about the most.
Okay,
Uh,
so now let's talk about intentional and lunar living. Since you mentioned these four stages of the moon, what is lunar living? Living.
Yeah, well, the moon, it presents us with a rhythm, a universal rhythm that we can all see in the sky. And it invites us to, I think, take stock of our own energy, the energy around us, and where we are in a cycle. And I think the world that we live in, we're so prone to just trying to get everything done in a day, and especially
Well,
here in
let's say
America.
the
we're
moon is so small, right? The
Yeah,
moon, this universe, in this our galaxy, right, is small. Maybe we shouldn't talk about universes. There's so many things, other things out there. But
there are.
what are the things that are done on the different phases of the moon, or what would it be? I mean, when do you cut your hair? When do you, you
Yeah.
know, what
Yeah.
communicate more? Hmm.
Well, so we look at the moon phases in terms of our like kind of the energy we present. So at the new moon is
Hmm.
when we're setting intentions. The first quarter moon is when we're taking our action on them. The full moon is when we're doing the shadow work and understanding,
What is shadow work?
it's so many good questions. Shadow work is the looking at the parts of yourself that you are not seeing that are impacting your future. So the
Mhm.
parts of yourself you might be pushing down, or the stories that you're
Would
not
we
acknowledging.
say that they represent our fears?
Yeah, totally, totally. Your fears,
Mhm,
and what makes it the work of it is that we don't often see them as fears. We justify them, and I'm sure you know this from your work. We
mhm,
justify them
mhm.
as, as true barriers where there might be an
Yeah.
underlying fear, but we say, well, oh no, there's this other thing that's happening,
Mhm.
and truly there's a fear to understand. And we do that at the full moon, and then at the third quarter moon, it's when
Yeah.
we're really conscious about maybe giving back to other people or giving back to ourselves, and just sort of redreaming another way forward. Because I think that we tend to get really stuck in one way, that we think an outcome should
A
be,
pattern.
but
Yeah,
there's
a
not one
pattern.
way. And so the
Yeah.
moon allows us to do this. And then when it comes to like cutting your hair and things, there's all different points of view on that. It's, do you want it to grow longer, or faster? Do you want it to to not grow as fast?
Mhm,
But I think if you look at the energy of the moon phases in terms of what you want to grow and then what you want to release, um, you can do anything at any phase with that in mind, the energy you want to attach to it uh,
mhm.
there.
Um, so, I asked this because I thought that might be prominent in your courses online. Is that, I mean, do you, because people come to you who are not witches, or who are tarot readers, or who are, heard from a friend of a friend, but maybe they're just not sensing their power as witches. Is that true, or not?
Yeah, in some cases, I would say we have probably three-quarters of folks who come to us are interested in tarot or are
Hmm.
interested in crystals, or something like that. And about a quarter are people who have either studied some form of like a Wicca or a paganism, or have claimed the word witch outside of a framework in a way, and are just looking for
And what do you mean by
community.
that?
Well, when we look at the word witch, and when you look
Hmm.
at Wicca, for example,
Right.
there is this kind of structure to it. And even in paganism is so broad that it's challenging to say that there's one structure. But there are,
Hmm.
there's the wheel of the
A
year,
frame of
and
reference. We're
right there
talking about
there
frame of reference.
are, there's mythology, there's all sorts of things that can fall under there. And there are some folks who don't, that I've met, who don't want, they don't want anybody else's stories. They don't want any prescribed anything, and
Uh-huh.
they see the power in being a witch as solely being themselves without anything attached to it. So as you said in the beginning, buying a tarot deck doesn't make you a witch, and that's, this idea of being a witch outside of anything else. So
Mhm.
about a
Uh,
quarter of the people are
mhm.
already like somewhere in there, and most folks come to us though with an interest in tarot, or something along
Yeah.
those lines first.
When when we talk about witches and magicians and things, like we're talking about the tarot, the magician card, when you see that, you usually talk about manifestation. Um, when you suggested to me the topic of things that could go wrong with manifestation, how and why they go wrong. Maybe we could talk about that.
Yeah, I think this comes back to that word intention. I think
Mm-hmm.
there is a idea around manifestation of creating something you need right now. You know, like you need more money, or you need, or you really feel like you need a partner who is
Right.
a stronger relationship partner or something. And
Right.
folks try to manifest from almost a place of desperation, I find pretty
Uh-huh.
often, like really
Ah.
desperate for to receive something. And
Mm,
I think,
okay.
yeah, I think that's where you go wrong, because even if you receive something, but then you find it's not the right thing, or it falters, a week later, and it's not what really we need to manifest, I think, is our true selves, or a place from a place of our true selves, and
Well,
doing
give me
that
a
shadow work.
specific example. Maybe you can invent a client or invent someone who came to you, and you can talk more specifically about it. It will be easier for us to understand.
Yeah, well, money is a huge one, and folks will want to manifest, maybe $1,000 to replace an appliance, or to buy something, or go on a vacation, or whatever. And what they get is, perhaps they'll get the $1,000, a surprise work bonus or something, but then the next day another appliance breaks. So they still didn't fix the first one, and now they're out the money on the next thing. Or they really want to manifest their spouse or something, to love them in a different way, or communicate differently.
Uh-huh.
And so, something happens, and for a week there is better communication, but then that
Yeah.
partner I've seen where the partners turn around and ask for a divorce then a month later. And I
Yeah.
think that's really where that place of desperation, and not knowing your true self, or trying to manifest based on some other expectation, that, like, a
Yeah.
societal expectation, instead of what you truly desire, based
Hmm.
on your own.
So, how could we fix it? Why did it go wrong? What was, what went wrong, and how did it go wrong? You
Yeah,
explained a little how, but to fix it, what could that person have done
I
differently?
understand their intention and why it's their intention. If the intention is to have $1,000 to replace an appliance in your house, why don't you have that $1,000 to begin with, would be the question to ask. And that is where the manifestation comes in, manifesting the courage to look at your finances, manifesting the resources to understand money. And it's that manifestation that's going to make the $1,000 appear again and again and again in the future,
Okay,
rather
now
than
wait a minute.
manifesting from the
Here we have all our listeners are crying their eyes out now, and they've been praying and manifesting intentions, and they're thinking, I've been doing it all wrong. That's why I'm not making any money. So on the one hand, you're saying it just doesn't fall to the sky. If it does fall from the sky, you did something wrong. So it's going to, easy come, easy go with that $1,000. Let's use a different example. All right. Let's not money.
yeah.
Another topic.
Yeah, well, another one I see is manifesting a health. It's typically, I always see, like, relationships, money,
Love, money, and
or
health.
health.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's what I always see. And with health, somebody will want to manifest, uh, like, weight loss, and looking
Hmm.
for that weight loss. And I've seen the exact example where, what happened was, somebody did lose weight, but they had a parasite, and that's what caused the quick weight loss.
Oh dear.
And
Hmm.
yeah, and I mean, that doesn't happen. I mean, that's obviously not happening for everybody. And I
Of
think
course.
that the folks who have long standing, though, when we think about manifestation, and people who really have this power to create miracles out of thin air, I think it's because they're manifesting, like, the roots to solve the rest of the manifestation, which is, in that case,
Well,
with
let's
health.
go back to this example of the person who wanted to lose weight. How could she have manifested it differently?
Yeah. Well, what she did the next time, was manifested a healthcare team. that actually cared about her, because this person really needed to lose weight for medical reasons, not body image reasons. Like medical reasons, needed to lose weight, and her doctors just kept saying lose weight, eat a Mediterranean diet, lose weight, but there was nobody supporting her, nobody
Yeah.
really guiding her in this, and she had no
Hmm.
idea how to break these habits. And so what she did was focus on manifesting healthcare providers who care, who can truly support me. And you know what? She got that healthcare team and made all kinds of health changes, and
Hmm.
diverted diabetes and heart attack and all of these things without a parasite.
That's interesting. Do you have clients or people who come to you that are under the age of 18? Young
No, no, yeah,
adolescents?
no. We
No.
specifically don't work with minors. Um,
Hmm.
and I think that just from my teaching background too, it's something that I find that people don't really know themselves until they're
Yeah.
in their mid 20s.
50s.
Yeah, yeah,
I
right.
would say
Like you really don't know
60s.
yourself till later.
Yeah.
So I think
Yeah.
a minor is somebody under 18, just is not
Well, that's
there.
a generalization. It's a generalization. But there are different things going on in their lives compared to older people.
Oh, for
Um,
sure. Yeah, I was a high school teacher before, so yeah,
yeah.
yeah, that's why I'm the
But did
teenagers, a
you
whole different
quit your
ball of wax.
job? Did
I
you leave your job?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And what was that the moment, that of reckoning when you said, okay, this is it. I'm closing the door there and just opening another door. What happened?
Yeah. Well, I've done this twice. When I was out of college, I was a sales rep for a big candy company here in the U.S. And
Oh, how sweet.
yeah, it was a great job. I had a company car and I had all kinds of student loans from college. And I had this moment
High
of like,
dentist bills.
yeah, oh, student loans from school, and
Yeah.
yeah, I did, and I had this moment of thinking that I'm not doing anything to help the world, and I quit and went
Mm,
to graduate school to get my master's and be a teacher. A couple weeks later, did that, and I loved what I did, loved working with kids. I mostly worked with kids who had struggles learning, and
mhm.
what I found was that the schools I was working in weren't really built to help those specific kids. And
Well,
then
surprise, surprise,
I
surprise.
know, and then the
Sounds like a
parent,
lot of schools I know.
yeah, and then the parents in particular, the mothers, I just saw so many of those mothers with 16, 17, 18 year olds where the mothers had just fought so hard. And by the time they were in their mid 50s, were so just tired and didn't have any
Yeah.
idea who they were.
And of
And
course, didn't know how to help their
yeah,
child,
I had, yep. And I just saw this family, and then I saw that impacting the kids, because then
Hmm.
the parents were so tired, nothing the kid could do was right, or getting
Hmm.
them anywhere. And I just saw this big thing and thought, this isn't the right place for me. And I went into private practice, actually working with kids in a different
Ah, I
way.
see.
And then
Hmm.
from there is when I was really like, how do I help women though? Because so many women
Okay.
are the ones
Uh-huh.
really, and that's a generalization too, but it often is that I was seeing the moms that were at the wheel for these kids. And so I thought, well, what do I do in my life? Because I have a daughter who has some learning challenges, and I thought, what are the things I do? And it came back to this, all the my practice of being a witch and all this spirituality and the
Hmm.
the personal growth that comes with that.
Yeah.
And I just shut down my practice, and
Other business.
yeah, and here we are. The Sisters Enchanted was born.
You talk a lot about self-care. How does self-care figure in the work you do?
uh, it figures into the work I do, in that I find that a lot, it's sort of along the lines of shadow work, that folks will tend to, uh, do a lot of self care type things that aren't
For
really self
example?
care. For example, it's very big here in the US, anyways, as you may know, that there's a big wine culture with women, and women. And don't get me wrong, I love a good glass of wine, but there's also
Hmm.
this idea that, it's the end of the day. and I'm going to drink like 4 glasses of wine to relax. But then, the next day feeling tired, like you didn't sleep well, and it becomes this pattern of unpleasantness. And it's often those things like that done in the name of self-care, or, going shopping on a Saturday for stuff you probably don't need. You just don't want
Well,
to be
then
at your
let's
house
give
doing the
this
things.
concept a definition. What is self-care?
Self-care is building a foundation in your life, building a foundation so you have a life that supports you. That's what
Mm-hmm.
self-care is. And I think that self-care is creating a supportive life rather than an escape from your life, which is
Okay.
how I see it.
Say that again slow so we hear it clearly.
Yeah, self-care is building a life that's supportive rather than
Yeah.
escaping from your
Okay.
life,
Okay.
which is
And
how I see it painted.
let's have a few examples of self-care in your lingo, in your perspective, that would lead to that better life that you talk about.
Yeah, setting boundaries around your time and
Around your time, more people.
oh, well, I think that, well, both. I would set boundaries around time. I first, because it's people who will use your time to no end. I find that
Yeah.
women really, in particular, don't often start out saying no to people, wanting to really take on projects or help or volunteer and do all the things and be helpful, and really don't leave time for themselves. So boundaries
Okay.
around
Hang
your
on.
time.
Hang on. So this brings me to ask you, because you spoke about courses, online courses, and now you have your talk is around women and helping them, and I want to know if you have one-on-one clients, personal clients, someone who has a session with you, lasts an hour, once a week, once a month, a package of what kind of system do you use to work with people,
Yeah, so
with women in this case?
we have our courses, and then we have a small group membership. And
Uh-huh.
through that small group membership, folks can book in with me, or a variety of other people on
Yeah.
our team on every single month. So we do small group calls on Zoom, and we do breakout groups, so everybody gets time, and we do it in that way. And then these folks also can work with anybody on the providers list every month, and we work together for 6 months.
Personally.
Yep.
Personally. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that would be usually what's a common, you know, mm, tempo? Would it be 1 hour a week for 4 weeks, or how long? Or do they pay by the hour whenever they need it?
Yeah, no, so this is a small group program. So they're in the group
Uh-huh.
for 6 months, and
All right.
then they get one session per month with somebody from the
Oh, I
service
see.
providers.
I
Yeah,
see.
and then we
Mm-hmm.
meet as a small group twice per month.
Ah,
And
that's interesting. Mm-hmm.
yeah, and then there's I think right now we have about 20 people in the group. So we also have our whole team comes on these calls, and we break the virtual
Uh-huh.
group up into smaller rooms so that everybody
Uh-huh.
gets one-on-one attention, and work toward whatever it is that they're working on in their
Wow.
lives.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, a lot to do, a lot to talk about, and a lot to write about. I'm surprised that I didn't see here a book underway with the top with that title, but I'm sure the next time I talk to you, there will be one.
Well, we do have a self-care. I did write a self-care book. Yeah.
Uh,
I just didn't
okay.
list it. Yeah. It's a self-care book, and it
What's the
has all,
title?
it's called Magical Self-Care. And
Okay. Magical self care. Will
yeah,
it be on your channel? I mean your website, thesistersenchanted.com.
yeah, it should be able to be found in all of the
Okay.
places, but it's
Okay.
full of like self-care tips around crystals and tarot, but it also has all
Uh-huh.
these structured things that I like to talk about, like setting boundaries and
Yeah.
saying no to people.
Yeah. Come on, some more.
Oh yeah, time. I love to focus on time and being intentional with time. I run a business and have two kids and also care for aging grandparents. And I know firsthand that if you're not the owner of your time, your
Yeah.
time will own you.
Talking about time, we're at the end of the interview, and it was so interesting to talk to you, really, Sarah. I hope our roads cross again. And just let me repeat one more time for our listeners. I'll be writing it in the description. So Instagram, the underscore sisters underscore enchanted. YouTube is the sisters enchanted. And your website is thesistersenchanted.com.
Yes.
Thank you again, Sarah. You stay well.
Yes. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Bye bye.